Okay, after that bit of excitement. The following day, Hijikata received notice that Benton Fortress had come under concentrated bombardment. The Imperial Army had begun their attack. I got some trepidation going into this. We had the love confession and everything, that's all done. Cosmo still hasn't shown his head. He's been very quiet and patient for some time now. And I'm like, when is he gonna show up and be like, I bet you forgot about me, huh? So I'm just waiting, but I don't know when he's gonna show his face. So, yeah. Alright, Imperial Army is attacking. After hearing how dire the situation at Benton was, Hijikata immediately decided to send reinforcements to the fortress. I'm leaving to support the men at Benton. Chizuru, you're coming, right? Yes! He grinned. I'm always with you, Boo. Always. I never learned how to ride on a horse. Knowing this, Hijikata simply set me behind him on his. We galloped through the town, moving at what seemed to me an incredible pace, when suddenly the crack of a gunshot rang out and something slammed into Hijikata's body. Gah! Hijikata's body shook. Ah! The horse, surprised by the gunshot, reared up and threw us to the ground. Understandable. That's a very nice ground. Ow! Now rid of its frightening burden, the horse bolted. Well, I guess my Cosmo senses were going off, although he's not really one for guns. I was fortunate enough to land in a bush. Is that fortunate? And so all that happened to me was a number of small scratches. I don't really know if that's fortunate. Hijikata! I crawled across the ground toward his body, my own bruised and aching. The soil all around him was stained dark red. In my time with the Shinsengumi, I had seen many battlefields and a great deal of blood, but this... What was I going to do? Terror gripped my heart and I could hear blood hammering in my ears. Hijikata! I shook his body, which was drenched in blood, and I called his name over and over. Hijikata's brow furrowed ever so slightly. His wound was serious. Silver bullet? A normal human would have died instantly. It was his fury blood that kept him alive, if only barely. Hijikata! Please, say something! His eyes opened to thin slits. Oh, gosh, man, you look worse than you did when we were fighting all those furies. Chizuru, are you alright? Yes, I'm fine! He was nearly dead, undoubtedly in excruciating pain, but even then his first thought had been my safety. I choked back a sob. We're in trouble if they come back to finish the job. We need to get out of here and wait for this to heal. He struggled to his feet and began to walk, blood dripping down the length of his body. Hijikata, stop! I ran over and hauled his arm around my shoulder. He leaned against it gratefully. I scanned our nearby vicinity. Luckily we were safe, but who the heck shot us? Like, they just shot and were like, well, that ought to do it, and went on their merry. Perhaps the soldiers saw us fall from our horse and by some divine chance assumed that we had died? It became glaringly clear, however, that each passing moment was another lucky minute spent. It was imperative for us to find a safe place to hide. Well, dang. I'm glad they just assumed. I nudged Hijikata, moving his arm over my shoulder, and we ran through the brush into a nearby grove. Hijikata, are you alright? Yeah. Wouldn't really call this living, but I'm here. There was a steady flow of blood oozing from his wound, and one would guess he was dead from his pale complexion. Soon, even my hands and clothes were drenched with his blood. It doesn't look like any more soldiers are around. In the meantime, we'll have to do what we can to stop the bleeding. Let's go. All right. Sure thing. It took a sheer force of desperate will for me to stop my fingers from shaking as I carefully peeled off his clothing. As I removed his shirt, I saw the bullet hole in his gut. It bewildered me to think how accurate the shot was. This is horrible. The blood continued to flow from his stomach. Judging from the bleeding in his back, I assume the bullet left his body at least. Okay, well that's good. I took what little relief I could from this fact. Please wait here for me. I need to fetch some water to clean your wound. I was able to perform a bit of first aid, but at the end of the day, it was only a stopgap. We would have to return to Goryokaku immediately. As soon as you're able to move again, Hijikata, let's head back to Goryokaku. We need to leave all we can and collect ourselves. Hijikata? Can you hear me?
Yeah, just give me a sec. Yeah. I don't know if I could go back out there on my own just yet.
Okay. I couldn't let him lose consciousness. I needed to do whatever I could to keep him awake. Don't worry. Shimada and the others have everything under control. They'll be waiting for you.
Damn right they will. They're not Shinsengumi for nothing. We can't waste too much time, though. We gotta come back. And cover them.
You're right. You're gonna make it, Hijikata! However, it didn't look like where he'd been shot showed any signs of clotting anytime soon. Hijikata. My voice quivered as I called out to him. Hijikata! A chill ran down the length of my spine. I could feel a cold sweat form on my forehead. Even with first aid, another man would have succumbed to these wounds, let alone be able to speak or move. Hijikata must have been mustering the entirety of his spirit to continue on. That's not good when he's got a limited lifespan. Hijikata!
God damn it. Stop making a scene. I can hear you, all right?
His voice was barely above a murmur. It was practically a wispy breath. It could only be a matter of time now. The warning bell was beginning to ring in my mind. Even if he were a fury. At once, a sense of clarity came to me that suddenly stopped my hands from trembling so forcefully. That's right. He couldn't die from this. He's a fury. I inhaled deeply and I gathered my courage to speak. Hijikata, please, drink my blood. He curled his brow? How do you curl? And his eyes widened slightly. I didn't bother waiting for him to respond. I unsheathed my kodachi from the scabbard on my hip, lifting the blade high above me in a glimmering splendor. Without any doubts, I moved the shining blade towards my wrist.
Stop it!
The bark of his command startled me, and the blade clanged noisily to the floor as it dropped from my hand. In his condition, he shouldn't have been able to scream as loudly as he did. But there they were, his eyes gazing sharply at me. Why?
Spare me. I don't need it. I'll be okay. I'm not gonna let this crap kill me. This isn't the end. I told you that. You're the reason I'm alive. I won't die here. I'll be fine. He spat the words from out of his gritted teeth, and in response I said, Look, I'm an Edo woman. I'm gonna save because I'm an Edo woman, because I'm not entirely sure about my Edo womanliness. But I don't believe you. I don't believe you. What I do believe is what you said, that you want to live and don't plan on dying here. But I don't believe you when you say you'll be fine. Chizuru.
Hijikata blinked incredulously, perhaps taken aback by the intensity of my glare, and I felt tears begin to form. It's all your fault, Hijikata. You're just so damn stubborn after all these years. So I'm not taking your word for it. You always put up a wall and pretend everything is fine, even when you're bursting at the seams. Maybe my words were a little too harsh on him, especially in his condition in a time like this, but it was needed. I didn't care. I was determined to get my way just this once. And maybe, just maybe, I got through to him. Yeah, we did. I'm in command now, alright? I am the captain now.
Jeez, some lady you are.
His lips curled up slightly, but he soon broke into a light-hearted laughter.
I'm starting to second guess why I fell for you. Ugh. This is why they say women from Edo are trouble.
Look, I promise you can give me grief for this later, but for now, please. Before I could finish, Hijikata closed his eyes. It looked as though it was a silent resignation.
Do as you will.
Hearing him relent made me cry freely. He leaned gently against the tree, shutting his eyes carefully. I rested my head on his shoulder for a brief moment before reaching for his sword. I swiftly swiped the blade from its sheath before running it across the length of my small wrist. The color of my blood was the same as his. I put my lips against where the blade sliced, and I sipped a large gulp of blood without swallowing? Why are you drinking your own blood? What? Oh! And stuff, but it's so funny. Then she was like, gulp, spit into your mouth. There's a bloody kiss for you. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's probably totally inappropriate, but I couldn't help it. Just, the idea is so funny. You go, Chizuru. I'm rooting for you. I pressed my lips against his, giving him life through our connected mouths. I could hear his throat gulping the blood. It may have been his fury instincts kicking in that allowed him to accept the blood as readily as he had. More. I sipped more blood, depositing more into his mouth. We'd repeated this process over and over again. As long as he craves it, I must give it to him. I couldn't let Hijikata die here. Under no circumstances would he lose his life. I gave him blood over and over, as if it were a ritual sacrifice for his life. Please, Hijikata, survive. That was all I had wished for. You good? I bent my head down to sip more when suddenly Hijikata's hand reached out to stop me. Hijikata?
Alright, that's enough. I've stopped bleeding.
His cheeks, which moments before this had become as pale as snow, began to show color once more. There was a vibrancy in his voice again. Hooray!
You're an idiot, you know that? Now you've done it. You've hurt yourself.
It'll heal soon.
That's not the issue here. What kind of absolute idiot would ever allow the woman he loved to hurt herself for his sake? Man, try putting yourself in my shoes for once.
After all that trouble, the first thing he does is scold me. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Well, why don't you put yourself in my shoes? What kind of absolute idiot would ever want to watch the man she loved suffer?
Oh, shut up.
He pouted his lips like a child. It was so endearing. It was impossible to keep from laughing. You dummies. Both of you. You do look a lot better, even though you're still covered in massive amounts of blood.
Hey, enough of this. We gotta get going, Chizuru. They're gonna catch up to us soon.
Okay.
Let's go. We'll head back to Goriyakaku.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way, I'd prefer the next time we kiss to taste a little better than that did.
He smiled wryly, and I nodded as I helped him stand. His body wasn't great, but it was enough to get us back. He dusted off his lap, trying not to wobble as he stood. After what felt like an eternity of walking, we finally made it back to Goriyakaku. Wow. I thought it was summertime. What's with the Sakura? Our return was met with a gorgeous view, one that rendered both of us utterly speechless. The petals of cherry blossoms danced in the sunlit breeze, twirling their scent in the summer air. It's... Huh? Do I have no is Sakura later in the north? Maybe. The scenery was so breathtaking, it almost felt like we'd stepped into a fantastical world. Were we dreaming? Hijikata, how are you feeling? He forced a small grin. As a Fury, he should have been fully healed by now. Amagiri's words about the Furies borrowing their power from their future lifespan suddenly came to mind. I slowly began to panic, becoming paralyzed with dread over the implications of this realization. Was this the end for Hijikata? Hijikata broke the silence, interrupting my anxiety.
You don't look half bad underneath all these blossoms.
Huh? I looked up at him, perplexed by his words. You really think so? I've always thought they really suited you, though. What is this conversation? I've always thought the blossoms suited you much more because they bring out the purple of your eyes. Each fallen petal was strikingly beautiful, in defiance of the tragic end they would surely face. I felt like there was a striking resemblance to his life, aiming to be the ideal warrior as he put his life on the line. A strong gust of wind blew through the field. I could smell the faint scent of cherry blossoms as they suddenly scattered through the wind. Then, out of nowhere... Nice. I like a big gust of wind, huh? Who do I know that likes dramatic entrances?
So, you were alive.
His eyes fell on Hijikata, and his mouth curled up in a smile. Why? My voice broke, but Kazuma only laughed.
I'm here to put an end to all of this. This man is an affront to my honor, and must be destroyed.
At Utsunomiya Castle, Kazuma warned us that he'd return. However, I never thought he would forsake his clan and travel all the way to Edo just to fight Hijikata.
I'm surprised to see you made it here, to the north. Impressive for a fake. I heard all of you pathetic losers got your asses kicked again and again over in the east. I'm not sure if being born into a warrior family, or hell, even being born as a demon could help you survive the embarrassment of failing as often as you fools do.
That was a little surprising. His tone was as derisive as usual, but his words were almost compliments? Backhanded, to be sure, but praise of a sort nonetheless. In some way, he recognized what Hijikata had been through.
Didn't think you'd come all the way to Ezo. What were you gonna do if I'd bought it already? You would have wasted your time.
His face twisted into a crooked grin. And then... he drew his sword out. Please wait! Hijikata is currently gravely hurt! If he fought in his condition, he'd surely die. I stepped in front of Hijikata, between him and Kazuma. However, he moved his arm in front of me.
Step back.
But...
he's thrown everything away to come fight me, right? It's only polite of me to accept the invitation to fight a warrior of his quality. That's...
Kazuma had practically abandoned his clan. This, up until now, seemed to me to be his entire life, just for the sake of defending his honor. Hijikata and Kazuma were different men in almost every way, but perhaps they shared a warrior's pride.
It'll be fine. I won't die. I already told you. I have a reason to live.
He just suffered a serious injury, and his lifespan might be used up. If he fights Kazuma, then surely by then his life would be up. Even if I could convince him to run, then everything he'd stood for and lived for would be destroyed. No, I couldn't do that. Fine. I'll just watch.
Like I usually do.
I believe in you. Hijikata smiled. His smile was fleeting, like those scattered blossoms floating in the summer wind.
Furies are only imitations. The more you use those powers, the shorter your life gets. You're nothing compared to a pure-blooded demon.
The cherry blossoms continued to dance around us, eventually falling upon Cosmo's golden hair.
You are destined to simply wither and die. You're no different to these cherry blossoms. Well, it's not like I'm trying to kill myself over here. A man's gotta protect the people he cares about. It's not so easy to be a samurai, didn't you know?
Hijikata's tone seemed to indicate he was speaking seriously, but I saw his lips curl into a sardonic grin. All those challenges were just opportunities for him to climb the hill and achieve his life's goal. Watching him now made me see just how much he'd given. Every drop of sweat, blood, and tears in his life to protect the ones he loves. After some silence, Cosmo muttered,
Perhaps the name of Fury no longer suits you. The life you strive to live is not that of a fake.
There was no hint of contempt left in those red eyes of his, full of confidence.
You are a demon.
Kazuma, the man who took pride in being a demon. He called Hijikata, who drank the water of life and became a fake, as Kazuma called them, a demon. I think for him that was the highest possible compliment he ever could have given.
I take back all the crap I gave you for being a fake. If you're really ready to take on the life of a demon, that means you must have a demon's name. I name you Hakuoki.
Dang! A name bestowed upon Hijikata by Kazuma offered as a token of acceptance from a demon to a fury. Well, dang it, that ain't the name of the game, though. Alright, this confirms beyond any shadow of a doubt. The canon route is Hijikata. Wow, okay, that's crazy. That's amazing. My mind went back to the first night I met Hijikata. His hair was flowing in the night's wind, and I remember thinking it looked as if it was cherry blossoms scattering furiously in the night air. Oh yeah. It seemed almost as if the name had been chosen long, long ago, so perfectly did it fit him.
Thanks, I guess. But I'm not doing this so you'd call me a demon, you know.
His mouth quirked up in a smile as he slid his sword from its sheath. With a sigh, his body shivered, and suddenly his hair was white.
Can't play long, though. That a problem? Not at all. I'll kill you with the first blow.
Kazuma nodded, his own sword sliding from its scabbard. The air was tense between the two. Not a soul could have come between them. I think the battle will be settled in an instant. They stood apart from one another, still as statues. A wind blew up, casting scores of petals into the air. Between the two combatants, there was a brief moment of stillness. In the next instant, they both leapt forward. If only for a second, their swords met. Wow, it really was decided quickly. The two traded blows that thundered through the field around us, slashing with their full body weight. That's the smile of a man who got stabbed. I'm like, yeah. Kazuma's sword passed within a hair's breadth of Hijikata, but Hijikata's blade found its mark. Aw. I'm sad. Kazuma, my boy. He buried his sword deep into the demon's heart.
There's still something I've got to protect. I can't lose, not even to a demon.
Hijikata's voice carried with it a confident authority. Kazuma gazed up towards the sky, and I could almost see a faint grin creep onto his face. His lips moved.
If my end were to be met with the blade of a demon like yourself.
Even with his heart skewered by Hijikata's blade, he could still talk. He put on a brave smile as he spoke.
Then I have no regrets. I have lived my life with honor, and I die with the same.
His eyes were clear and free of hostility. If anything, he seemed at peace. To die in a duel against a foe he respected. It was a death he could accept with grace.
You've defeated me. Now you must live out what life you have left. Hakuoki.
They were his last words. I salute you, Kazuma. Hijikata drew his sword out of Kazuma's body as it fell, dropping the still bloody sword back into its scabbard.
I will.
Then Hijikata's body trembled for a second, and he gasped before falling to his knees. Hijikata! I ran to his side. Hijikata! Hijikata! Please, hang in there! My desperate screams reverberated around us, but Hijikata could only manage an uncertain lip curl. Heyo.
Man, you always gotta cry, don't you? If you don't get a thicker skin, there's no way you'll be able to handle being married to a warrior.
He winced as he spoke, and my heart clenched in my chest watching him suffer in so much pain. How many times could I possibly watch him push himself beyond his limits? But for real, was that a marriage proposal, though? Loki? I only cry because of you, Hijikata. And besides, being married to a warrior doesn't make you impervious to watching the person you love get hurt. Teardrops streamed down my blushed cheeks, dripping down upon Hijikata's tender face. He reached his hands unsteadily to wipe my flowing tears, kindly running a finger across my cheek.
Don't worry. You won't ever have to cry on my behalf again. Just let me spend whatever time I have left with you beside me. I want to enjoy it.
Hijikata's eyes quietly shut. I held tightly onto his blood-soaked body, hugging him closely as the blood seeped into my shirt. Bright, blowing blossoms danced coolly above us. Were we near the fountain, or did he die? Guys? Well, I mean, I can hope for an epilogue, right? I'm not gonna be immediately salty like I was with Soji's. They'd let him live, right? Oh man, that route was just ridiculous. It was just like, man, punch you in the gut over and over and over again. I'm glad we got some sweet times with Toshi, though. I wasn't sure how they were going to work up to that, but I think they handled that very well. There were some nice, sweet, tender moments with him. I kind of went... Oh, man. Slow burn of slow burns is right for this boy, though. It took forever for that to happen, but it was very satisfying when it finally happened. So I'll give it that. But, man, talk about everybody die. Everybody and their pet dog died in this route. That was so depressing. Sheesh. At least in Soji's, I was blissfully ignorant about everybody who may and may not have died. Except for Kondo. Poor Kondo. That was good. I really enjoyed it. It was just... Whew. It was a lot. It's crazy, though, that it just took, like, one decisive strike. After all the crazy battles him and Kazuma had, it was like one blow. One shot. One kill. Well, I'm gonna wait till this epilogue's over before I say anything further on the subject. Alright, what you got for me? And Sister Brother just was not involved at all. What happened to him? Did he just have, like, no schemes? What, were he and Soji busy having a thing? Off on their own adventures? He's just, like... It's really weird. Like, in the canon route, Kaoru really has nothing to do with any of it. As far as we know, Kaoru's still a lady, and she's hanging out in Kyoto. And we know nothing further about any of that. That's so wild. Hijikata didn't reach Benton Fortress. Even with the reinforcements Hijikata had sent, the fortress couldn't hold against the Imperial army and surrendered. Eventually, they took Hakodate as well, and the army of the Republic of Ezo was forced to surrender. It was done. Just as spring came to Ezo, the war the Shinsengumi had fought for so long came to an end. I heard later that it had been Otori who convinced the army to surrender peacefully. Better to live and see the future than die and be denied it. Just the sort of thing I expected from Otori. The Imperial army recognized Enomoto's skill and spared his life, sending him to prison instead of the executioner. Somehow Shimada survived the final fierce battle. Hooray! He escaped unscathed. When I asked what he intended to do, he'd laughed and said he'd probably open a school of swordsmanship in Kyoto. Oh my. So many petals. My allergies. Aw, he's gonna open a school of swordsmanship. That's great. Soma lived too! Soma, on the other hand, was entrusted by Hijikata with the Shinsengumi, turned himself into the Imperial army, and last I heard has been detained as chief. So that's what that— I was wondering if that's what that conversation was like. I leave it to you. So Soma became chief for a small portion of time? As for Iba, before the battle at Goryokaku Castle, he tragically took his own life with a bottle of morphine given to him by Enomoto. Dude? You just had a T-Rex hand, man. It wasn't that bad. If he were to have survived by surrendering to the Imperial army, his life would have been forfeit anyway. I mean, I guess that's true. I suppose for Iba, this was the ultimate sacrifice that a warrior in his position could make. I watched the cherry blossoms bloom around me, recalling everything that happened back in Ezo. How many lives were lost in this land? How many patriots had fought and died for what they believed in? But perhaps most of all, I remember the time I spent with Hijikata. Aww, you got a purple bow to match his eyes. Isn't that adorable? You goober. They're so beautiful. Pirouetting and dancing on each breeze of wind, the cherry petals brushed against my skin like silk. Each one brought a tiny whiff of the smell of new life. Whenever I see the colors of spring, I remember that wonderful time. The time he spent by my side. He even got his kimono back.
You really like cherry blossoms that much, huh?
Yeah. Neither the plum flower nor the tree peony could compare to their beauty. After all, the reason I like cherry blossoms was... I like them because they remind me of you. Well, she's got a yukata on. He looked at me in serene contemplation for a moment, then let his grin spread across his face into a smile. His eyes narrowed before he softly murmured,
Well, I like them too. They look good on you.
His voice, soft and quiet, throws my mind into chaos. My face was flushed with color, and I turned away. The way he whispered so intimately, so sweetly, there was no way I could possibly hide how I felt about him. I doubt I'll ever grow used to his voice. The very sound of it makes my heart flutter.
Lately, I've been worried about the end.
Huh? My voice shook as I tried to figure out what he meant by that.
I never get bored when I'm with you. Sometimes I wish I could live forever.
Oh. As a fury, Hijikata had spent his future in exchange for power in the present. How much he had spent, we couldn't know. His life could end tomorrow. If he could live forever, then that fear of the unknown would disappear. But I knew that could never be.
It'd probably be an easy way to go. To just accept that I'm used up and wither away. But there's no need for me to ask for an end. Since I want to live, I'll fight for survival. That suits me better.
His vigorous voice gave me courage. I don't want us to be apart. I would stay and fight with him until the end was at last upon us. I wanted to look death in the eye and say we'd made the most of what we'd had. I want to stay with you as long as I can.
You cry so easy, I'd feel pretty bad if I left you behind.
Oh. He was right. Tears had begun to roll down my cheeks without me noticing at first. I blinked in surprise, but that hardly helped. Sorry, Hijikata. I rushed to wipe the tears away, but he grinned and stopped me.
It's fine. It's my duty to wipe your tears away.
And he did, with kindness and with love. Then it's my job to support you too, right?
Of course. Who else could fit that role aside from you? No matter what I do to drive you away, you won't go. You even followed me to Ezo. I lost to you. I don't think I can ever win against you.
Surrounded by cherry blossoms, we sat as springtime returned to the north. Next year, and the year after that, I wanted to watch spring unfold with him. I wanted more happy memories like this one. And I wanted the day that we would be separated to never come. So did you find the fountain or the waters or not? Or are you just like, well, we'll conveniently forget Sanon's news and just live here in the Cherry Blossom Grove? That was weird. Hi, Hakuoki. Ha ha ha. It's a poem pun. Because he likes poetry. He never wrote us a poem, I just realized. I guess not even the woman he loves gets to hear his poetry. Well, that was certainly interesting. I think... I don't know. I did like it. But I think I like Soji's more. Just me personally. I don't know what you guys think. It's really hard. I don't know. This was definitely like a lot of historical factoids coming your way hot. Which was great. I love historical fiction. And not that that wasn't a great story and everything, but I just kind of, I don't know. Maybe Soji's just more my kind of guy. Slow burns are such a hard thing for me. But I did love Toshi's story, and I'm really glad to have done it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Thank you very much for watching. Now that we're done we're done the good ending. That was a very, very good ending. Now that we're done the good ending, it's time to move on to unrequited love endings and bad endings and things. So, if you guys want to see what those entail, I hope I'll see you over there for that, guys. Either way, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I will see you later.